multiple sections
Right,
that.
right.
Like, they're not gonna make a connection with you unless you take the initiative.
But don't blame that on the fact that you're black.
Yeah, yeah.
Please let them know what's the deal with that.
That's not the case at all. So, when it's time to party, it's just like a huge, huge, huge party. So you'll definitely have a lot of fun. Yes.
So, another random stereotype that I've heard, when you attend, and you're going to think this is funny, when you attend a PWI, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Javaris. I post videos about college advice and my experience, men's fashion, and men's lifestyle. So if that interests you, definitely be sure to subscribe. I post videos every single Sunday and sometimes on Thursday when I feel like it. So make sure you are subscribed and you turn on my notification bell so that way you don't miss a video. As you can see, we have a special guest. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Nia White, and I just graduated from Texas A&M University.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about being black at a PWI. And if you don't know, PWI stands for predominantly white institution. So like she said, she just graduated from Texas A&M, and I attend the University of Georgia. So I wanted to make a disclaimer that this will not be like a PWI versus HBCU type of discussion. More so, we're going to be talking about, this is for students if you're black and you're interested in attending a PWI. We're going to be maybe breaking some stereotypes, giving or even proving some right, and giving our experiences. So if that sounds interesting, keep on watching. So the first perspective that I know a lot of people say is when you attend a PWI as a black student that you are not getting that black experience. So what's your opinion or take on that?
I wouldn't say that's the case at all, especially because with PWIs, there's always that black community there.
Exactly.
And in that, especially when you get into that space where it's just all black people, you can definitely feel there are some that put different programs and stuff in place. I know us, we have Big Kick It, so that's something where all the black alumni and black current students and stuff come together for a mini homecoming, a little black homecoming and stuff. So I feel that's not necessarily true at all.
It's not, because my school, we have this, we call it BUGA, or Black UGA. So it's not a club, it's just it's an ambiance. If you're a black student who attends UGA, you're automatically a part of what we call BUGA. So, and then both of us, we attended a black elementary, middle, and high school. We live in Atlanta, so we have definitely got our fair share of the black experience for sure.
Right, and Westlake High School of all places.
Right, yeah. South Fulton,
yeah.
We got it.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so are most of your friends in college, are they black, or what would you say?
I'd say most of my friends are black, but I also did make a lot of white friends, especially just with different classes you take and at my job and stuff, and not just white, just a lot of non-black friends, but I'd say the majority of my friends are black.
Yeah, I would agree. About 98% of my friends at UGA are black. I know when I was coming into UGA, I thought it was going to be hard to meet black people for some reason, but actually most of my friends, in my circle and even out, are black. So that's definitely not going to be something you're going to have to worry about if you're worried about not making or being able to interact with other black students. There are plenty of students that are going to be at your school for you to know and meet.
Yeah, and especially just like I said before, with just having those spaces to go to. I know for us, we have the DMS. It's when you go in there, it's just a place to hang out and chill and stuff.
So I know another issue is a lot of times people make the stereotype that you're going to always be the only black student in your class. So how do you think about that?
That was the experience for me in a lot of places, and I guess I didn't really let it bother me too much. I kind of have a low tolerance for people in general, so I wasn't really bothered by that much. But I think once you are doing well and stuff, and you're kind of proving yourself, they really can't say anything to you when you're making good grades and you're doing better than some of them. There's nothing they could say to you.
Right. And I know a lot of these white students, they've always been around white. Yeah, they've always been around other white students. So some of them, it's new to see black people doing well in their classes. But as far as you worried about being the only black person in your class, I mean, it just depends on your school, your major, everything. I don't think I've ever had a class where I was solely the only black student in there. However, I've had classes where it was only 2 of us, or maybe I was the only black guy. So that is a possibility, again, depending on how large the class is, because luckily me, I've had a class where it was only like 12 of us, and I still wasn't the only black student. So it just depends.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, I've had multiple classes where I was the only black student, but I think it also depends more so on the class itself, because, like, you know, if you're taking like a science class, like a health class or something like that, you know, doesn't really have much of an impact. But if it's a class where, you know, the subject of race might come up, you know, and you have other students, you know, saying some crazy stuff, it can be a lot of pressure to where you have to like stand up for yourself and like essentially kind of stand up for your whole race.
Right, and they want you to speak for all black people, and that's just not, no one can do that.
It's difficult. And like, I myself haven't had too many situations like that, but I have definitely had friends that like were in those high pressure situations where, like, you know, somebody was saying something crazy about black people and everybody else in the class was agreeing, and they kind of had no choice but to, like, you know, raise their hand and say something, like, because you can't just allow that to happen.
Right. And speaking on, now that you got on that point, so with racism at these PWIs, do you think, is it a thing? Is it like false news, or what intensity do you think it is?
I mean, it depends on where you go. Right. I went to, you know, Texas A&M, you know,
in the South.
Yeah, in the South. So racism definitely occurs. I think especially kind of just like with the history of my school, like it started off as kind of like an all-male military school, and like it over time, you know, let in women, and then in the 60s is when it let black people in. So you kind of, you know, feel that culture, and we're very heavy on traditions, and you know, there's just a lot of those traditions that, you know, were created that you're like, wait a second, you know, that, you know, were created without black people in mind. Right. So yeah, that can definitely be weird sometimes, but racism is definitely
it's a thing. Like, I wouldn't get on this camera and sit here and tell you that it's not a thing. As far as blatant racism, again, it's one of those, like, I know some people who have experienced like blatant racism. Personally, luckily, I haven't had that experience. Have you?
I've had kind of, they'll say like slick things.
Right.
Like, I know for one time I was like a freshman. I was walking out of my dorm with my backpack on, and there was a alumni in there, and he was like, "Thanks for visiting." Like, clearly I'm not a visitor if I'm walking out of a dorm with my backpack on. And at the time I didn't really think very much of it, but like clearly he knew what he was trying to say. And
you said they think a lot of like your friends are like athletes. Because,
they'll say, and I know like too, my freshman year again, you know, with a group project, and you know, I'm saying things and they aren't really taking it into account. They're not really listening. And at the time I thought, you know, maybe it's just because I was the only freshman in the group, like maybe that's why they're not listening to me. But in talking to other friends and other black people, like they have that experience all the time where like the rest of the group just will not listen to what you have to say, even if you're right, even if you know exactly what you're talking about. They just don't want to listen to what you have to say. So it's like things like that here and there. You know, it's not guaranteed, but
you're just gonna have to understand, like, you got to know your own self-value and understand like what are you willing to fight for in that moment. But when it comes to but another thing to keep in mind, I think it's important that we do have black students who are attending PWIs, because throughout the years we are getting better, because as black students we have to constantly fight for these changes. And you know, being a black student now, I'm sure I have it easier than a black student who went to UGA 10 years ago. So I think each year, you know, we're getting better because we're fighting for change. So I think that's why it's important that we do have representation in these PWIs. So as I'm going back and editing this video, I wanted to make this disclaimer because I wasn't sure if I was being clear in the actual video. I don't want to make the point as if though as a black student at a PWI, you will constantly always be having to fight for your right to be there or fight for change. I just wanted to make it clear. I just want you all to be aware of things that go on, because I want you all to be prepared. But by no means am I trying to scare you and make it seem as if though each day you're going to be living in this racist world at your university. So another random stereotype that I've heard, when you attend, and you're gonna think this is funny, when you attend a PWI, you have to join a white fraternity or sorority. So please let them know what's the deal with that.
That's not the case at all. The D9 Greek community is alive and well at my school. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And yeah, if anything, the Black Greeks are tend to be kind of the leaders for the Black community. The white fraternities and sororities, they're thriving, they're great. They're just very, very different, and you don't have to feel forced in any way to join them. If you want to, that's cool.
Right.
That's perfectly fine.
That is, yeah.
But you don't have to feel forced to. At most PWIs, the D9 community is there and available and thriving.
You do not have to join a white fraternity or sorority, nor is that your only option. As she said, she is a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and there are probably at your school is going to be other sororities and fraternities for you to join if you want to. So we were talking, so again, what's a pro you think of attending a PWI?
I think, especially with the big PWIs and the SEC schools, both of us go to SEC schools, that there's a lot of money that goes into those schools, and so you have so many resources, everything is just available to you. They encourage you to use it. You're paying for it, but there's just so many resources, good, well-funded, organized resources, and it's really great. Yeah,
the alumni is definitely giving back to. They are diehard fans of whatever school they attend. If you are a football fan or really any sports fan, you're gonna always be able to have a good time at the football games, basketball games, all of that. So that is definitely something to keep in mind if you are considering going to a PWI.
Yeah, and I think another one too is you get more diverse experience. Like he said before, we're both from Atlanta. We went to Black elementary, middle, and high schools.
Black church.
Black everything. So you kind of get an opportunity to just kind of get to know some people who aren't Black.
Black, who never experienced, who had a whole different lifestyle than we have, pretty much.
Completely different. Yeah, and so when you go into the workforce, you're gonna have to have the ability to communicate with people who aren't Black. So it's just good practice.
Another stereotype that I've heard was that Black students attend PWIs because we're trying to impress the whites or do anything like that. I don't know. I can't speak for anyone else, but me personally, that is ludicrous to me. I don't have time to try to please nobody else but myself and God, and those are two high maintenance people. So that's enough right there. Yeah. What's your take on that?
I think, you can choose a school based off of, if you really like their engineering program, or if it's this resource or that resource. There's many reasons why you can choose a school. So just keeping an open mind about why you may want to choose a PWI.
So another stereotype we've heard is that when you attend a PWI, you're not going to have fun. It's so serious, strict. So let's talk about that.
That's not true at all. And I think especially, just the stereotype around a Black person going to a PWI, they won't have as much fun, but that's not true at all. Again, both of us go to SEC schools, so football is a really huge thing. You have a lot of fun with that, and these schools are so huge, so when it's time to party, it's just a huge party. So you'll definitely have a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. It's so many people, so many things. You're gonna find someone who fits in your niche, who also has similar interests to you. I think that's the thing about going to a larger school. Even, I know not all PWIs are per se large, but we do happen to go to a PWI that's also a big school. So we have that luxury of having so many choices when it comes to friend groups and all of that. So, and just choices when it comes to who to hang around, what parties to go to, different event and settings. So you'll have fun wherever you go. You have an open mind and are willing to put yourself out there.
Like he said, if you have an open mind, you can have fun anywhere.
So something important we want to discuss, like we said, we both pretty much grew up in a Black neighborhood, Black community. So we want to talk about the adjustment from being in that Black community to going to this large school where we're around majority white people, of how big of an adjustment was it for us?
Yeah, I know for me it was definitely a culture shock, and I kind of had a double culture shock, not just with white people, but also just being in a different state and stuff.
Right.
And I think for me, it took definitely that first semester, but I think for me it took just a whole freshman year to just kind of like really adjust and really like find my place in an environment like that. It didn't come as quickly or as easily as I thought, and that's just because you're just finding different aspects of yourself.
I know for me, when I first stepped on campus, I felt the need to have to, in a sense, prove myself. But then eventually, because I felt like I was representing my race, it's such that large population. I was representing not only my race, my family, but I wanted to go on this campus and make a good impression. But then eventually I realized I can't put that pressure on myself. I have to want better and do better for myself, not because I'm trying to please the other students or even the professors there. So that was like a big adjustment for me. As far as actually walking on the campus, it wasn't too much of an adjustment for me. I just kind of got into place with it. Like I was able to surprisingly adjust well, so that wasn't too much for me, at least. But it depends on the person. Everyone adjusts different. Some people, it takes them a little longer, and like she said, she had to adjust not only for the culture shock, but also she had to go to a different state. So people have different sets. I know some people, they had to adjust for a different state. They had to adjust for the culture shock, also the larger population. So that's different things to consider as well.
And also just that idea of like feeling the need to prove yourself. I definitely felt that as well. But like he said, just that pressure is going to make you feel like you have to be perfect at all times. And if anything, in college, you are not going to be perfect. Things aren't going to go perfectly. Yeah. So you kind of have to take that pressure off of yourself to allow yourself to make mistakes and stuff. And so, yeah, being a black person like on a white campus like that, you really have to kind of be true to yourself and kind of have those conversations with yourself. Like, you're an individual, you know, you're allowed to make mistakes.
Some advice when it comes to attending or just being black at a PWI, I would say, is like we said, even though most of our friends are black, I think it's important that you do want to reach out to or just have connections with other students, other races as well, because when you're always so involved with just the black community, you're missing out on the opportunity to have that diverse experience. But even though, like we said, you want to connect with other races, you still want to have as many connections as possible within the black community, such as like the faculty and stuff.
Yeah, connecting with black faculty is very, very, very important, because if something happens and you need for somebody in power to be on your side, that's when you would go to that mentor, because they have that rank. Like, you just as a student, you know, you only have so much power. Right, so it's very important for you to have somebody in power who really understands you, is really going to like ride for you, because they know who you are. You don't have to like prove yourself to them first. Like, they just know you.
And speaking of the faculty sense, so I have a lot of points that I want to make with that. The first thing that just came to mind is I want to break the stereotype that you're not going to have, like, I know it's a stereotype that people say you're not going to have black faculty or black professors. There may not be many, and again, it depends on where you go, but I've had some black professors. It's black faculty definitely at the school, so you can make that connection with them. But also, I want to break the stereotype of even the white faculty. I know a lot of times people say like they're not going to care about you. It's 2 points to that. When you go to a large school like us, like when you're taking these 100, 200 people classes, the professors, they can't reach out to every student. That's just impossible. They're not going to. So if you want to have that connection with your professor, you're going to have to take that initiative. But the second point I want to make is professors, they don't not care about you simply for the fact that you're black. Like I said earlier, you're going to have to make that connection yourself. So how do you feel about, I guess, or what has been your relationship with your professors, either you're black or non-black?
Yeah, I think, especially talking about what you said, that there is going to be kind of an indifference there, you know, especially like you said, like classes with 300 people and they have multiple sections like that. Right. Like, they're not going to make a connection with you unless you take the initiative.
But don't blame that on the fact that you're black.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing that to the white students, the Asian students either.
They're just in it, you know, a lot of times they're doing research and stuff too. So like, you have to come. But I mean, I think I've had like really good relationships with my faculty. I don't always like, have to make a connection with every single one, but I definitely do have those professors who I've taken like multiple times, or I was just like really into their class or something. And like it's just like with high school too, like especially with those smaller classes, like if those teachers see like your talent and see your hard work, like you're going to get noticed in some of these classes. So yeah, just do your very best. And a lot of these professors too, like they took this job as a college professor because they really want to teach young people. They really want to have a connection and a relationship with young people. So if you like take out the time to like get to know them and stuff, like they love that. So
yeah,
go to office hours.
Yeah, go to office hours for sure. And then the pro of, and we didn't really talk about this, but a pro of being black at a PWI is a pro in itself, in that you're easily remembered. So let's say 10 students come and introduce themselves to the professor on the first day of class, 2 being black, the rest are white, like you're automatically more likely to be remembered. And that's a good thing in my books, because I want my professor to remember me. Also, when you were talking about this earlier, when you're applying to different positions like SGA maybe, the schools, they want diversity within the different organizations on their schools. So you're more likely to get picked, not because you're black per se, but they just want that diversity. So that's a pro, in my opinion.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to go after those positions and, try to get that job or that, director seat, go for it.
Right.
Like that people have open ears and they really want to know what you have to say. So like go for it. Don't have that kind of feeling of like, oh, I'm black, everybody else on there is white, they're not going to want to listen to me. Like if you just kind of have that self-confidence, like you can get your way in there, and you'll find that a lot of people, like I said, like they want to hear what you have to say.
Right.
So it's a space for you always.
It's always for sure. So we had another piece of advice regarding this is more of being a minority at a PWI. So go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah. So just the important thing to do, of course, if you're black, you're connected with the black community and in those organizations and stuff. But it's also very important to support other minority organizations. Like every group, every minority has multiple organizations and multiple things that they do and programs and stuff. So it's important for you to go to those programs and you to get to know them as well, because you're all minorities and you're all working hard and you're all you're experiencing a lot of the same things. So you can't just stay inside your bubble and say, okay, black is the only thing that I'm worried about here. Like you have that conviction and confidence and that space in your black community, but it's also very important to like use that to support other organizations as well.
And you'll see when you get on these campuses that other minorities, they support the black community as well. So you're gonna want to take the time to at least show up to you just want to go to those different shows, go to those different events, just to at least show support. It's just as simple as showing up to a few things here and there. But guys, we're going to end it here. We talked about a few different discussions, broke some stereotypes, proved some stereotypes, and even shared some of our experiences. So if you have any other questions or concerns, or if you want me to do a part 2, definitely be sure to comment them down below. Also, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and that you are subscribed to my channel. And you can follow her on Instagram at
NiaYT97.
And I'm going to put it down here. And also, you should already be following me at Javars.ok. And thank you again so much for watching, and until next time.